It's about 7:30 in the morning on Monday, August 21st, 2023, and I'm here at the duck pond overlooking the cows there. This is a slightly elevated point on my field, and you can kind of see that it looks like my entire field's covered with goatweed, and that's true to a degree. But there are some areas that aren't. Goatweed, also called hogwort, woolly croton. I forget the scientific name for it, but it is a weed that appears, they say it's due to overgrazing. It's somewhat difficult to kill. There's particular chemicals that work on it, but it has to be applied at certain times of the year, depending on when they're growing and stuff. The oil from this plant is actually an irritant. It will cause your skin to slough off if you have concentrated oil and you apply it to your skin. It's also, if you eat the oil, it's a laxative. It's a powerful laxative. So beyond that, there's not much known about it. The cows, they can eat it. They just can't eat very much of it, apparently, because it irritates them too. There are certain birds that this is one of their primary sources of food, is the seeds. What else to talk about it? I've seen different places. One says that it's an annual. Another says it's perennial. I think it depends on where you're at in your climate. Here in my climate, it seems to die off. One of the ways to kill it off is to keep grass on your field, because the woolly croton requires sunlight to germinate. So if the seeds don't get sunlight, then they won't germinate. So if you graze your grass too far close to the ground, it's going to allow those seeds to germinate and sprout. This is so late August, mid-August, late August is when they're at their prime or their peak. They start growing, I think, in May is when I started seeing some of it, but it's more of a warm season plant than a cool season plant. So it does provide plenty of cover. I could probably raise chickens under this stuff, and the hawks would never even know the chickens are there. The ducks like to use it as well. Oh, look, here's this. Oh, I dropped it. Looks like the seeds are getting big now. I was going to show you some seeds. There's no seeds in there. It's just woolly. So yeah, woolly croton. My strategy is to do a bit of an experiment, just kind of leave it alone, see what happens. I surmise that the stress from the lack of moisture is going to injure it. The grass should have had plenty of opportunities to sink their roots deep, and if they have, then the woolly croton doesn't stand a chance, you know. So the other thing too is, as I've said before, I'd rather have something growing than nothing. Let me show you what I mean by that. I guess this is as good an area as any. Just look down underneath. See, there's old spring grass. There's a little bit of summer grass here, but it's just, the summer grass really hasn't established itself yet. And so the woolly croton is providing ground cover. It's also, the roots are helping the soil stay together. You can see over here, just next door, the woolly croton isn't doing so well. It's not as thick, and there's grass growing. So it's competing with the grass. So my strategy is to not graze it too low, and to keep the cows moving. Apparently they say that rotational grazing is effective control for this weed. When I first came here, people said that cows will not eat this stuff. I have found that the longhorns do. In fact, one time I moved them into a pasture with plenty of grass, and some of the cows went straight for the goatweed and started nibbling on those leaves, you know. So, you know, one of the things also is when you're looking side by side, looking at the side here, it looks like there's a lot more, but if you look straight up and down, you know, you can see that there's areas where there's no goatweed at all. So it looks worse than it really is. Just like in the late spring when all the grass was brown and you couldn't see the young grass that was growing up between it. But you look down and you see it. So this is isomerized Bermuda grass, which is fine. It's a decent grass. It grows. It's relatively resistant to drought and things like that. So anyway, I guess that's my episode on woolly Croton and my strategy. I'll try to keep you guys updated on what happens with it. Hopefully my experience with it will help you make good decisions for your own field. I'm philosophically opposed to using herbicides. The reason why, and there's a logical reason for this, is it introduces a dependency on the chemical industry. And I believe that nature's smarter than us, and we should be using nature and understanding it rather than trying to kill it. The herbicides would also target other plants that might be beneficial, and adding chemicals to my field will interfere with the natural cycles that should occur. Which I believe the reason why this woolly Croton goatweed stuff exists is to repair damaged soil, which in this case, you know, my soil is being repaired. How can I complain about that? Why would I want to interfere with that process? Somebody once said that nature doesn't like to be naked, doesn't like bare ground, and there's a cycle, not a cycle, there's a process that nature uses to turn bare ground into beautiful green plants and fat and happy animals, and we should be using that process rather than fighting it every step of the way. So I'm going to let the goatweed run its course. I may make a hasty decision to shred it, but I'm going to try to resist that temptation. The reason why I'd shred it is if I felt that the grass underneath was dying because of the woolly Croton. And if that was the case, I would shred it. Here's an area where there's not much. So, all right guys, have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.